Hi, it's Keith Struthers here, and I'd like to share with you some ideas around why I believe form follows function is a myth. So 124 years ago, in 1896, Louis Sullivan writes an essay on the aesthetics of tall buildings, and in it he describes numerous scenes from nature, and his thesis is that form ever follows function. In other words, the shape something is commensurate with the purpose that it serves. The form matches the function. What I'd like to talk about today, just briefly, is how the thinking implicit in this relates to both nature and to our own creative process. So take nature, for example. We have an absolute plethora and variety of different kinds of fish, shells, seashells, birds, parrots, a huge variety of insects, butterflies. We don't get just one kind of seashell that's optimally designed, or one kind of bird that flies incredibly well. If function was the only design criteria in nature, we would not have variety. So nature doesn't create like a mechanical engineer, where you have a problem and you solve it with technology. In other words, you have a kind of a straight line thinking where you move from problem to solution. In technology, if it's not functional, it's redundant. But if we want to understand the living quality in nature, the aliveness of nature, its ability to procreate, to grow, to flourish, we cannot transpose a thinking that is appropriate for machines onto something that's living. You see, machines are designed from the outside only. And if we want to understand the living quality of nature, we can't think of plants or animals or human beings as passively being determined by outside influences alone. We need to think of them as actively determining themselves under the influence of outside factors. So unlike machines, living entities have a self-determining quality. So the problem with Louis Sullivan's thesis is that he's taking a thinking that's appropriate for mechanics and applying it to something that's living. In other words, he's treating the world of nature as if it's this big, complex machine. And when we do that with this kind of thinking, what necessarily happens is that we reduce it, we fragment it, we divide it up into parts, and then parts relate to other parts. And when we have this reductionistic thinking, what ends up is that we see the human being and nature in a dead way, as if it's a machine. So the heart is then seen as a pump, the liver as a filter, and houses are then seen as machines for living in. So by reducing nature to form follows function as an idea, necessarily omits the aliveness of nature. And that's a real challenge for our green movement, because our green movement sees a solution in alternative technology. Our green movement is not addressing the actual life of the planet. And then when it comes to creativity, take for example a simple thing like buying a pair of glasses. So you go to the optometrist, you have an eye test, and then you come out and you look at the display cabinet, and there's a huge range of different possibilities. There's round glasses and oval ones and cat's eye ones, and all of those shapes are not particularly functionally determined. It's determined by our emotions and our feelings and our humanness and our aesthetics. So with all designers and all creative processes, yes, we do engage in a rational thinking process. But then once we start becoming creative, we start playing, we start improvising, stuff happens unconsciously. And most really good designs are a hybrid of clear thinking with wild imagination that's been refined into something that stands out as original. Really, we're not designing factories alone. When we're designing most things in our lives, we are human beings designing for human beings. It's from human to human. So the feeling nature, our emotions, our caring, our love, our nurturing, our empathy for others, those qualities need to be reflected in our design process and our designs and all that we do. So to limit the design to functional criteria alone necessarily inhibits our creative and human potential. Absolutely. Thank you very much.